back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hey guys, so I'm here today to review a really wonderful memoir, I suppose it is, kind of, which is Just Mercy by Bryan Stevenson. Now this focuses on Bryan Stevenson's life, but we see it in the context of one particular case that he as a lawyer takes on. He is a lawyer who grew up in the south of America, in the racially segregated south, and he grew up there, so he's always kind of seen the divide between white and black people and between poorer people and richer people and all of those sorts of things, and people from minority groups. So he's always wanted to help people. Ever since he was a very young child, he always wanted to do something that involved helping people and improving the standard of life for people and stuff like that. He eventually got into being a lawyer just through kind of various different things happening, and he went and he did an internship at a place where he ended up meeting a man on death row. And when he met this man, he was so incredibly moved and touched by this man and the humanity that this man had that he decided he wanted to go into this area of criminal justice that was focused particularly on death row and people on death row. So it's a really, really interesting story, but it's not a story, it's real life. It's a non-fiction book. It follows Bryan Stevenson's life, as I say, but particularly we're focusing on one case, which is the case of Walter McMillian. And Walter McMillian is a man who was innocent of a crime that he was convicted of, and then he was put on death row. He was innocent right from the get-go. There is a huge amount of evidence that says this guy is innocent. He could never ever have committed this crime that you have accused him of, and not only accused him of, convicted him of, and put him on death row to die for. Walter McMillian's story really touched Bryan Stevenson and was one of the earlier cases that he took on in his career that kind of made him a bigger name, and it was definitely something that was quite obvious to him and a lot of the people he worked with, that it should never have happened. It should never have been allowed to happen because this man is quite clearly an innocent man. Alongside Walter's story, we are also following Bryan's life, so we get chapters that talk about his life and chapters that talk about the case with Walter, and we also get various different cases that are referenced in the story. So we'll see other people that he met as a result of investigating Walter's case, or we'll see other people who met him because of what he was doing and because of the charities that he was trying to set up. He set up a non-profit organisation for lawyers to help people on death row and in very dire situations when they couldn't afford lawyers, and I think it's a really interesting, poignant, very relevant look at a lot of America's problems with incarceration in today's age, because incarceration in America has risen steadily from the 80s up till now, and they now have the most people in prison in the world. Like, the ratio of the population to the people in prison is huge. So it's crazy to me. Crazy, but really interesting to read about. And what I think I would say about this book is if you like things like Serial, the podcast, or if you like Making a Murderer, you're definitely going to like this, no question about it. Bryan Stevenson's writing style is fantastically easy to get into, and he explains the sort of different terminology of lawyers and the way that he got into things and the case really, really well without being confusing or condescending, so don't worry about that. It's a very easy writing style. What I really liked about this book was that it was a very human connection as well, because we're actually seeing from Bryan Stevenson's point of view. He narrates the audiobook, which I listened to alongside reading this, and that's fantastic because, you know, anytime an author narrates an audiobook, it has a much more genuine feel to it. But also just reading in his voice, reading the story in his own words was really heart-wrenching at times, because there were moments where he was physically moved to tears and couldn't really help the people he wanted to help, and there were, I mean, it's a sad story really, because it's the story of a huge amount of different cases and you can't win every case, and that is what you realise whilst reading this. Some people do die and they are executed and given the death penalty in America in today's modern age for crimes that they have maybe been wrongfully convicted of. We don't know. The only case that we really get all the details of is Walter's, but some of the other cases that he talks about involve children, minors. Some of them involve people who are mentally ill, who've been abused, and people who basically should have had more people on their side, should have had lawyers who knew more about their case, should have been better represented when they went to court, and were not. And so because they were not, they've been put into prison, and some of them onto death row for things that are maybe not as major. Some of the laws in America have been recently changed in the last few years, make things more positive, but equally some states' laws have been changed in the negative way, and we see people who are younger getting convicted and going to adult prisons and being convicted in the way of adults even if they're minors. We see people who have definitely got mental illnesses being subjected to life imprisonment or worse, and I think that this book talks really clearly about some of the problems that America faces, and I'm sure other countries in the world too, with incarceration and the way that it's going. It is a hopeful story because we know that in the end Walter does get out. The problem I have with that is he should never have been there. Walter should never have been convicted in the first place because there was no evidence for it. And the fact that Walter was wrongfully convicted means that it's likely happened to others, and the state and the people of America have sometimes been failed by the government and their systems and the laws and the courts that they've been to and the representation that they've been given. And this book talks a lot about how this justice system has flaws and how some people have fallen through the cracks and been left in jail cells to rot even for minor problems and minor crimes. I would definitely recommend it. I think it was fantastic and I gave it a 5 out of 5 stars. Like, it was just, it couldn't have been any better. It couldn't have been any better, and I loved it and I think it's fantastic. So thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Bye!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.